It's like the it's like the sign said. This is Gwydion's Astral podcast, episode 150, Pymander's Rant. But I don't understand why I'm here. Hey Edward. Hello Pymander. How are you? Good. You doing Nagamati? No, this is Gwydion's Astral podcast, episode 150, apparently, entitled Pymander's Rant. Are you recording Buddhist books right now? Yep. I'm about to record Zen Part 10. You forgot to point. Zen Part 10. By the time we get to your point in space-time, it will already be up. Yes, it is up. That wasn't that long ago. But yeah, having watched it, I can say... Hey, don't tell me about it. I haven't recorded it yet. I haven't even lit the candles. So if you tell me about it, you could create one of those... You know, it's the Marty McFly thing. Time travel, time communication, same. I don't see what the problem would be. I mean, it's not time travel exactly. Well, like, if you tell me it was really good, and then I become overconfident and it turns out bad, and then it's bad, so you tell me it wasn't so good, or you tell me it was good, but you're being insincere, and then that makes me act in a different way, then we've, like, spun out, like, 4 or 5 parallel timelines, and I don't need any of that headache. I just wanted to, By any chance, is Gwydion there? No, which I find kind of odd, since this is his podcast and all. Oh, this is really more of a Gwydion thing. I'm here, buddy. What's up? Hey, Gwydion. Hey, how's it going? Oh, I'm good. I'm about to record a Zen episode, and I wanted to get some stuff off my chest, but Buddhist Books podcast, well, before Chicken Philosophy existed, I did get stuff off my chest on Buddhist Books podcast, and but these days Buddhist Books podcast I like to keep a little bit more clean. Right. But that said, I want to get it off my chest before I record Zen Part 10. Sounds like a good idea. So yeah, okay, cool. So, like, I figured it's a Nagamati episode. Who the fuck cares about Nagamati, right? Actually, I guess you didn't hear. Edward explained earlier, but what happened was from my vantage point in space-time, I was you just a few hours ago. And so I know that you're going to go on for approximately 18 minutes. And it's all kind of, I don't know, it's not very interesting. And so we made an executive decision that we would have this be a conversation that takes place on episode 150 of Gwydion's Astral podcast. So we're doing that instead. Nagamati is going to be free from this little drama that you're having today. So I just wanted to it's just something about being mercurial by nature. I think I outflow a lot mercurially, but I also inflow a lot. And I don't know what other people's experience is like, but from what I can observe, I think that people taking in information directly and indirectly and then processing that information in various ways. A lot of that stuff goes on unconsciously, but for me it goes on consciously and unconsciously and on the boundaries in between, and I tend to aggravate it. Something simple comes in and then I approach it from 10 different or more different angles, and then I create more mercurial issues than there were there to begin with. And so anyway, you don't have to tell me about it. I'm exactly the same way. All right. So first, it's 2 comments I've gotten on Buddhist Books episodes that, sometimes if somebody comes on and they're just talking trash or they're being rude or insulting, they'll just click hide user, and then they can never comment again.
Sure.
Other times they're challenging me. I mean, they're contradicting. They're asserting usually a much more popular opinion that they think I am unaware of, rather than, of course, why would they know? Why would they realize that I am quite familiar with whatever perspective it is that they're giving, and have chosen intentionally not only to reject it, but to put hours and hours and hours and hours of time and energy into an elaborate demonstration of my rejection of their assumptions, right? And it doesn't mean I hate them. It doesn't mean I hate their assumptions. It's just that the assumptions are very popular and I question them. And I seem to be the only one who questions them. So I want to question them out loud and over a long period of time, so that, you know, if it turns out they're right, great. I will have demonstrated that they're right. It's sort of like a scientific method approach,
I guess.
But that doesn't really apply to this first one. The first one was a guy who came on and he commented on Lotus Sutra introduction to the Lotus Sutra, that video. Is talking about me in the third person, whatever. Maybe they assume that whoever's running the channel isn't the same as the person who's talking. But anyway, saying the speaker has basically, I mean, I'm not getting the exact words because I don't have it in front of me, but basically, to cut short, it's saying that I am talking as though Hinayana and Theravada were the same thing, and therefore when Mahayana scriptures, or indeed Vajrayana scriptures, make reference to Hinayana in an unkind way, or an insulting way, putting down, looking down on way, then I become offended because I think that they're talking about Theravada, where Theravada is a living tradition that has so many good elements, and it has nothing to do that Buddhist scholars agree. And I looked up the Wikipedia entry for Hinayana, and it was saying that people used to think Hinayana was a reference to Theravada, but today most Buddhist scholars agree that Hinayana doesn't refer to Theravada, but it refers to like Prakritikar, these other things that I guess don't exist anymore. That were like, that Mahayana was a movement against, and with the sole definition being that the goal was nirvana, and that there was no goal to become a Buddha and enlighten the whole world.
All right, seems like a safe way to go. I don't know. Like, if you have what you feel is an unpopular opinion that disagrees with, like, the academics on the subject, like, and you're not that sure about it because you're coming from largely a place of ignorance, I find that it's better to, I don't know, keep it to yourself. Maybe kind of like put it on a shelf marked, random cognitive biases I used to have, instead of, I don't know, clutching onto it like some kind of golden calf that's leading you astray of the point of Buddhism.
Okay. I mean, I question that. I question, most Buddhist scholars. Like, I appreciate that they want to give space for the voices of present-day Theravada. Plus, there was a lot of Mahayana influence on modern Theravada, and there's all these 6th century Common Era, scholar monks that wanted to clarify the teachings of Theravada, But the thing is, like, at least the way that I understood, for example, when Shanjan was entering into those debates in that movie called Shanjan. If you've seen it, it's good. I did a reaction to it. How many times am I going to point? Anyway, the point is, it was a debate between Hinayana and Mahayana. Where were the Theravadins? I don't see them. They weren't there. Why would the one and only form of Buddhism up until just a few hundred years prior to that point be missing from the conversation, and the conversation be had between these Hinayana folks that aren't Theravada, and these Mahayana folks that are Mahayana, right? And just for anyone who's like a little bit lost, Mahayana means large vehicle, so they called everything, okay, they called something else, the thing they called is up for debate. They called something else small vehicle. They called themselves great vehicle. They said small vehicle inevitably leads to the great vehicle, right? And to me, to my ear, it sounds a little bit similar to like a Christian saying, "Oh, we don't hate the Jews." Judaism naturally blossomed and unfurled into Christianity. It's what it was supposed to do. And some people, didn't go along with the blooming, and so there's this rich and beautiful tradition called Judaism. But that's not the same as the Judaism that Martin Luther hates. It kind of sounds as hollow as like if someone were to take that position. So, okay, so he's saying that the reason I don't like the term Hinayana is because I've confused it for Theravada. I'll acknowledge that that's the consensus reality among Buddhist scholars these days going forward.
Sure. And I know that you can't actually hear what I'm saying to you, so it's literally like talking to a brick wall. But at least you and I, whatever that means, are both the same spongy substance and the same skull that can benefit from my half of the conversation, even if you can't in your present time.
And to conflate Theravada and the Pali scriptures, and pre-sectarian early Buddhism, and put them all together and say they're not Hinayana is disingenuous to me. It strikes me as very disingenuous. And I think that the Mahayana Buddhists are and were being a little rude when they referred to Hinayana. And that's it, but moving forward, I'll be less knee-jerk reacty, and I'll make a little, I'll shorten everything that I've just said into a pithy couple of lines, and I'll throw that in whenever one of the Mahayana or Vajrayana scriptures speaks in a diminutive or derogatory way toward the Hinayana Buddhists. So that's one thing I wanted to get off my chest. The other thing was the second one, and again, these weren't like these were people who assume that they know more than I do about one or two things that are trying to correct me, and I appreciate that. And they didn't do it in a rude way, but I admit there's some bit of ego that doesn't like being corrected, especially when I actually think that they're wrong and I'm correct, and I've already been aware of their point of view for a long time. Now, the Hinayana is not Theravada thing. That was new information for me. I read that comment, I'm like, really? And then I went and said, Buddhist scholars say Theravada is not Hinayana. I'm like, huh, do they now? And so you've heard kind of my thoughts about that in present day in July of 2025. So the other guy, commented saying, he was talking on Shingon 1 and saying most Mahayana, Mahayana people, Mahayana groups, don't advise delving too deeply into the Pali Canon, which is to say the scriptures of Buddhism that existed for almost 1,000 years before Mahayana was an idea that anybody had. That's the equivalent of in present day, delving into how DOS works or Windows 95 when we all have such good, software.
That is dumb. Yeah. It's sort of the equivalent of, I don't know, saying Joseph Smith, thinks that the Catholics are behind the times. Who cares?
To use, and so he's comparing operating systems and forms of Buddhism and saying, the Pali Canon is outdated because it's old and we've got better ones now. First of all, that's fucking arguable as hell in the context of operating systems. And second of all, where does Linux fit into all this? And third, my response, I think, was, first I was going to delete it and ban the user. That's my initial reaction. I'm a lot like you, Gwydion.
Yeah, Yeah, we're always all solving and coagulating, aren't we?
Yeah, what I ended up opting for was approving the comment and replying. And I said, thank you. That's interesting that they have that perspective. I hope nobody minds too much if there's a little space on the internet where someone isn't taking that advice, comma, haha.
Haha, indeed.
You know, best wishes to you or something like that with little prayer hands.
I'll pray for you.
So, yeah, just that, oh, well, you know, me and the other Mahayanists and even, you know, and Vajrayana, obviously, you know, say, don't waste your time on that original scriptures of Buddhism because they're old, they're clunky, they're slow moving. We've got light speed, pew, 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 pow, poo, pew, 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 pew. But obviously, yeah, you know, I don't know, maybe I look like I'm 20 or something, but I'm 46 and was raised by a Buddhist, you know, so, like, I'm already quite familiar with, like, you know, Vajrayana, Mahayana, various forms of Mahayana.
Yeah, kind of.
The one thing that I've felt I've been lacking, and the reason why, you know, one of the reasons I am delving into the Pali Canon as much as I am, is I'm missing it. It's not there. It's the whole structure is built on a foundation that I just have the most basic cliff notes about. You know, the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. I didn't even know that there was all this. I thought Dhammapada was it. You know, this little book here, tiny little book. And so yeah, I'm gonna use my time and energy on this earth to focus on and think about the Pali Canon, and I admit sometimes it's rather dull.
Oh, it's hella dull. Like, if a teenager or someone in their 20s was like interested in reading about Buddhism, then it's the last thing I would recommend because they get bored and move on to something else.
But I am choosing the dullness over the flashiness. I'm choosing the old-fashionedness and clunkiness. I want to connect with that original root that evolved into Mahayana before I really properly delve into reading the Mahayana Sutras. That's what I've chosen to do. That's what, you know, basically a lot of Vajrayana monks and abbots or whatever, you know, have suggested as a course of building the foundation and understanding Theravada and understanding the Tipitaka and then the Mahayana before delving into the Vajrayana. It's not the path that necessarily they took. A lot of these folks were born and raised in Vajrayana families and then became Vajrayana monks when they were 12 years old. But in talking to me, the advice they gave me was like, yeah, start with the teachings of Lord Buddha, and then if you want to, you can go to Mahayana. You don't have to, but if you want to, and then once you've really assimilated Mahayana, if you want to, try out Vajrayana. Maybe not everybody gives that advice, but that advice had the ring of truth when it was given to me by a Sakya Tibetan monk that I interviewed. How many times have I pointed? I'm using up all your links. Sorry, that interview in What Would Yeshe Do, as well as Kes Fry, and I'm pretty sure I'm out of opportunities to point to the corner, but you've heard me talk about Kes Fry before. Anyway, that was it. I'll let you guys get back to your show. Thank you for letting me talk your ear off at the beginning of a Nag Hammadi chicken philosophy episode, and I hope nobody minds too much.
As we've said repeatedly at this point, this isn't in fact the Nag Hammadi episode of Chicken Philosophy, but rather episode 150 of Gwydion's Astral podcast entitled Pymander's Rant.
All right. Thank you, Edward. Sorry to take such a big bite out of your episode. I hope that you have a lovely reading today and, a wonderful day and week ahead.
Well, thank you, Pymander. But I'm not doing the reading. Maybe tomorrow. I think just to be consistent with this one, I'll go ahead and wear this outfit, though I will have to change to my reading glasses at one point.
Thank you again.
You're welcome. I mean, don't know what for, but... Oh, Gwydion's gone. It's weird. It's a weird thing to do, Gwydion. To have me do the intro and outro of one of your episodes. I mean, I guess that 149 was like he seemed to be looking back on when there was an Edward Reed podcast. That was the first podcast, did you know? The very first one. I just started recording on the voice recorder on my phone, saying, yeah, I'm doing a podcast. It got up to 100-something episodes, I think. Deleted that in 2017. It was a little too exhibitionist, autobiographical, incriminating, no one needs to know that much about my internal monologue. Wandering around Nepal, talking into my phone, uploading it. So yeah, occasionally Gwydion will go through and hack one of those up to pieces and take highlights and mix them up with the radio tuner style thing. He does that here on Gwydion's Astral podcast. This is Gwydion. You can click there, you can click there, whatever you want to do. Just click it. Click.